It's a new rise. Can somebody lift those hands tonight? It's a new rise. I need you to speak it over your own life tonight. It's a new rise. It's a new rise.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Propel Deep Dive and Podcast. I'm Megan DiMartino, and I'm thrilled that you're here with me today with my very, very special guest, Misty Phillip. And before we introduce Misty, I'd just like to give you a brief overview of the Propel program. I created the Propel program after 40 years of building, starting, scaling, sustaining businesses, built 3 of them to 7-figure businesses and sold all 3. I've been in the beauty wellness space for all of these years. And so it is my heart to share with you the tools to start, scale, and sustain your business and your life. But the Propel Deep Dive is about you. It's about you, to see you within my guest story. Because I can give you my accolades. I'm not sharing these to impress you, but to impress upon you that you too can do this. And Misty is an amazing author. She has a 4-time best-selling author, award-winning podcast host, and entrepreneur. Just recently, she launched her #1 best-selling book, Spark Your Influence, Influencing Women to Lead with Boldness, Purpose, and Passion. What a better way to launch in this launch period, to have Misty on to share with you her story of hope and infinite possibilities. So do go to, if you're live on Facebook, go to YouTube, subscribe to the Propel page. The link tree is right there. You can go and get all of the information of how to join the Propel community and be with us every day, a weekly newsletter and blog. So we are here for you. And then in between, various trainings and virtuals and all sorts of things for you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you, Miss Misty Phillip.
Hey, Megan, I'm so glad to be here with you.
I as well. We met a couple of weeks ago, not long ago, at an event in Dallas, and right before the National Religious Broadcasting Conference for you, where you kind of got this book launched for yourself.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. We instantly hit it off. We got into a small group and saw all of our passions that were aligned. And I just love the way you encourage and inspire women. And so it is such an honor to be here with you today.
Well, the honor is all mine. So as I shared with you, Misty, the Propel Deep Dive is really about a deep dive into your life to give our guests an insight that you didn't just become a best-selling author 4 times. You didn't just start a podcast. You didn't just start businesses. It is an evolution. So I'd love you to go back to young Misty, where you grew up, a little bit about your dreams, goals, and aspirations, and how that led you to today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. So I grew up in the Midwest, and my dad was in sales, and I would go to his regional meetings. He was an award-winning salesman. And as little Misty at 6 years old would write down all of these positive mental attitude slogans and beg my dad and his people, let me get on stage and share these. And you know what? They did. Fast forward, I became afraid of public speaking. So God really has a sense of humor. But my young life was marked by tragedy and kind of derailed me, took me off course. My brother died when I was young and had a difficult journey. And then God radically saved me and changed my life. And fast forward, I became a wife and a mom. And I worked for a little company here in Houston called Enron. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was the place to work. And I had a thriving career and was just at the top of my game. And I heard God say, go home and homeschool your babies. Mm-hmm. And so I did. So a lot of my life has been marked by these twists and turns that people are like, you're doing what? Mm-hmm. But my son at the time had been vaccinated and had a reaction to that and had grand mal seizures on the day that my boss had asked me to start coming to the office full time. So I had a really amazing gig where I only went downtown to the office 2 days a week and worked from home the rest of the time, which was unheard of 20 something years ago. Right.
Yeah.
And I knew that I needed to come home. And so I did. And I spent the next 15 years raising my boys, homeschooling them, preparing them for life. And I thought, that was it, that God was done with me. But he wasn't. And so when my
So
oldest,
let me stop you for 1 second, because
yeah,
that's what I try to do is take little pieces of your journey so
yeah,
that folks can really see. So what I'm hearing you say is that after you gave your heart to the Lord, that pivotal moment, you really built that muscle to listen,
yeah, yeah,
because I don't care, male or female. It does not matter. I've been in corporate myself. If you're on that fast track, that's that track that you have been aspiring for. And so for you to listen and respond. Now, the blessing, yes, was that they responded to you, because obviously you were, they wanted you, but you listened. And so God gave you that favor.
yeah,
So share a teeny bit about that listening muscle that you've
yeah.
built.
That is so important. And it's not
Mhm.
just even the listening, it's the obeying. I think that's where it really comes into play is, first of all, we have to listen. We have to hear God's voice. And the word says that my sheep know me and that they hear my voice. And so if you are a child of God, you can hear his voice, but you have to be listening. And then once he tells you, you need to obey. And there is blessings tied to obedience. So Megan, at the time, I was actually making more money than my husband was.
Mhm.
And I was like, God, how are we going to even make ends meet? And God is so good. When we are obedient, there's blessings tied to that. And in our circumstance, God knew our financial needs. And
Mhm.
within 6 months of that time, my husband's salary doubled and replaced that income that we had. And so it's so important, not just to listen, but it's important to listen and obey.
Yes. Amen. Amen. So anyway, just because there are a lot of women and men listening to us and will listen again and again and see themselves in their circumstances and say, oh my God, I can't make this change. I can't. What am I going to do? But it is that listening and then obeying, because God will provide. Will. And like you said, look at your husband within months was superseding your income. So we don't know the plans he has for us. So it's just in that listening and obeying. Okay, so keep on.
That's right. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. So fast forward, I homeschooled my kids. My oldest son went to college, and I realized I am going to drive my boys absolutely crazy if I don't have something else to do. And so I saw women ahead of me who had homeschooled their kids and how they were struggling. And so I began praying and asking God, what's next for me? And I prayed a specific prayer. I said, God, where does my gifting and my calling line up in this next season? Because we all have seasons of life so we have gifts, we all have talents, they're all unique to each of us. We're all born with giftings, but there's talents that we develop along the way, our life experience, all of that goes in to make us unique. And so I ask him, where do my gifts and talents line up in what you want for me to do next? And I heard him say, you're the older woman. I need you to encourage the younger women. And so that's when I started writing a blog, and that blog turned into a book and my first podcast that then led to 4 podcasts that I had, a media company, just one step at a time, one book, one blog post, then like you, Megan, a huge successful community of podcasters. I was teaching and training, hosting conferences, had a magazine, a podcast network, all of these things to amplify the voice of women in particular, but we also had men in our community, especially around our conferences. And I really looked for ways to amplify the voice of women.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And, as you're speaking or sharing, I'm thinking about, I introduced you this morning to Angeline Moore, and many that come on the Propel program and are involved in the Propel programs know Angeline. And I cite her because Misty, and I'm using she as an example, but, like, your head could explode with, meaning, like you said, trainings and conferences and a magazine and train, on and on. But it's one of the things that I really try to stress to everyone, including Angeline. Like you said, there's seasons, but also that one step leads to the next step. And it's not that you, Misty, and I'd like you to, expand upon this, but it's not that you said, oh, I'm going to do a magazine. Oh, I'm going to do this. One step led to the next step. Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And to go back to that homeschooling season, there's no way that I could have done the things that I'm doing now. But back to that obedience, I was obedient to the Lord to stay home, to raise my boys in that season. So I feel like he propelled me in the next season. Things came very, very fast, but it wasn't like, first it was like, do a conference. And I was like, you want me to do what? Like, I could barely podcast, but I was obedient in that. And then that led to the next step. And, I was podcasting like you in the pandemic when people couldn't go to church, but I was able to help people get their voices out so that people could stay encouraged and connected. And then I started to solve problems. Once we got through the pandemic, then I was like, how can I help amplify these voices, which led to the magazine? And then how can I help these women make money, which led to the network? So it was one thing after another. And in all of my years of work experience, from the corporate days to being at home to now, I can see how in each season, God was preparing me for what he was calling me to do next. And I think that he only gives us enough light to take the next step, because we might be overwhelmed if we would see all of the pieces, but he is constantly preparing us. And I know one of the taglines that you have is you're never too old. And I want people to know I didn't start any of these things with Spark Media until I was almost 50. And it's been in my 50s that God has amplified all of these different things. And now I've made another move. I've walked away from my media company at the height of podcasting, in obedience again to the Lord, to work alongside my husband in his technology advisory services firm, which I'm the least technical person in the world. And it's a little intimidating. And I think a lot of women are held back by fear, right? But God, right? So in the Bible, it talks about, do not be afraid. In the various versions, it says like there's one for every day of the year, because there's like 365. Depends on the translation that you read, but it gives you a good idea. So we know we're not to be afraid. But did you know that the word go is in the Bible more than 1,500 times? And I talk about that in the book because, yes, like, do not be held back by fear, but sometimes it's just by faith that we go, right? Yes. And then as we go, he gives us enough light to take the next step. And as we stay connected to him and to the purpose that he's calling to in that season, he gives us more light to continue to step.
Yes. When we met several weeks back, you had mentioned that you walked away from what you just shared, your baby, your business, and to assist your husband in this season. And truly, that dynamic, again, folks, it's the same essence. It's that faith, that trust, that walking, knowing that God is guiding. But I want to have you share a bit about women and men, and I let me phrase it differently, women and men, that God has given me recently, Misty, something that I'm working on, and I thought it was going to be a conference, and maybe it will down the road, but he said, I didn't give you, he said, right around the time I met you, I didn't give you a big Fandango conference to do. I gave you the Queen's Court. Mm. And so the Queen's Court, and I'm still flushing it out, but basically is where, because there's so much divisiveness in this world and confusion about the roles of women and men and together and separate and so forth. But what he has shown me, and I'm going to use Mother Mary as an example. She was engaged. She wasn't married. And then the angel came and said, you're going to birth a child in this, Emmanuel. And now she could have said, I'm so sorry. I'm in a very provincial town. I could be stoned to death. I'm sorry, I cannot do this. Instead, she said, be unto you according to your word. But if you think about it, Joseph, he didn't bail on her. He stayed there with her. Yes, he also was guided. So it's, Esther, yeah, we know Esther, but, Mordecai, if he had not said, girlfriend, you're in the palace. You have favor. You're positioned to help our people. But she could have said, me? Little old me? I just can't do this. But it's beyond boldness in my estimation, my spirit, because they listened and didn't say no, but said yes. So what you're sharing right now is the essence of that.
Absolutely.
Essence of that. So share a little bit about, because again, people could say, listening to you, you've worked so hard, you're walking away. Why are you doing that? You're on stages, all of that. But yet God is going to really propel, you use that word, your husband's business as well as yourself and a new platform that you don't even know. So share what your thoughts are with that.
Yeah. So I'm so glad that you brought this up because we complement one another. And my husband has very different gifts than I do. Right. And when we both bring our gifts to the table, then we give that offering and then God multiplies it. And as you were talking about Esther, I went last year to the Capitol and prayed with the 1 million women. And that was a combination of Lou Engle, who was the Mordecai, who was calling the women to come pray. And if you think about it, our country at that point was feeling pretty dark with a lot of things that were happening. And so we prayed, the women gathered, but there were men there too. It's such a beautiful thing. And I just found out I was in the documentary. And so that was so fun to see, because what I said was our world is wacky, because our world is going crazy with some of the things that are happening. But when we come together as men and women, and especially husbands and wives, God just blesses it.
Yes. Yes. I see it. I am not married, but again, God can do anything.
Yes.
And he actually in 2020, end of 21 into 22, I heard release and be ready.
Yes.
Be ready for what, God? But I'm not going to share my whole life story here. But the point is that I know he's up to something because I have been releasing and being ready within this structure of, I can't just bolt out of this. Other people are, my clinic here, Novita, people are depending upon me. But with that said, I'm working. I can see God's hand in evolving because we do have to be available. We have to be available to be able to do like what you're doing right now with your husband. We have to be available. It's saying yes for sure, but we have to be available in our mindset, in our heart set, in our spirits. And so with what you're doing, I want you to, not just right now, but in general, in the whole essence, because at this point in your life, one of the things that is very, very imperative for people to really understand is to be clear. But then our guest might say, yeah, but you guys are talking about change and you're doing, moving from one thing to the next. And where is clarity in that? So share with our guests about, again, that's why I take my guests back to young so-and-so, because there's a thread, like you said, you were doing the affirmations and motivational speaking with your dad, and, preparing you. But you, on some level, were clear. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were, I see anyhow from your sharing that you were clear that you wanted to, as you said, empower people, help people to grow. Where is clarity in that?
Yeah. So for me, clarity is Jesus, and everything that I do, whether what the Bible says, whether you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, do it all to the glory of God. So whether it's being at home raising my kids, working alongside my husband, or empowering women, or whatever I do, I want to honor Jesus in that. And that was the beautiful thing about podcasting for me, is because I could encourage and inspire people literally around the globe from the comfort of my home.
Yes.
And that really inspired me to do that. And then now there's no place I'd rather be, even though I'm so not technical at all, but there's no place that I'd rather be than right next to my husband in this journey as God unfolds it. So it took me, though, to be honest, Megan, it took me a year and a half to let go of my baby. And in that time, like, we stopped doing the magazine, then we canceled the network. It was like one layer at a time that we were letting go of. And as I did that, I was releasing to the Lord and spent a lot of time just getting quiet. Our world is very, very noisy.
Yes.
And so we have to be very intentional about making that quiet time. And as I did, more clarity came, right? As the more time I spent with him and prayed, making sure, is this the next right step for me? Because I didn't want to give up too soon. But I also knew, that I wanted to honor the Lord in whatever that was. And so that took time of me really being still and listening. So that's where clarity comes from for me. It's all about Jesus.
Wow. I mean, first of all, that statement is very succinct, but it is packed with essence of what you just shared. And that right there, boys and girls, our guest, is all about what this is, because we can say, oh, I'm clear. I need to be, a entrepreneur. I need to leave my corporate job. I need to do this. I'm clear. But if he is not guiding you to do it, then that is not clarity. And so that is so powerful, Misty. So powerful. So powerful.
Yeah.
I think, so what, I mean, you basically answered this, but basically you are in a season of being open and ready and willing and doing whatever the Lord has for you.
That's correct. Yeah. And it's fun because I told my husband, yes, I will come work alongside you, but first I need to release this book that I've spent the last 5 years writing. And he was like, absolutely, you do. And, he has been such a champion of mine, helping me get everything across the line. And so it's an honor for me to walk out this book journey. But then at the same time, this morning I've been doing interviews, and then this afternoon I'm in a technical training with people from around the country. And so it's right now I'm kind of balancing both worlds, because I still have a foot over in this writing, speaking, podcasting world, although I'm stepping into this new place. And I couldn't finish my book until I had actually released my company. That's when I wrote the last words. I feel like the Lord needed me to take another bold step to show women and men too, that if God calls you to something, even if it doesn't make sense in your mind, to trust that, to obey that, and to take that bold leap. So yeah, I'm excited about the journey that we're on.
What a way to end and pull this together, for our guests, that it is really, because again, this world is cacophony. It's just, stay off social media, know what's going on, but stay off, because that is not what God is guiding us to do. And it is staying close to him and listening and obeying. And I'm so blessed to have met you, my friend, and be on this journey together.
Yeah, same. I have enjoyed getting to know you and excited about all the things that you're doing. And thank you so much for inviting me into the deep dive.
And really, folks, do go to Amazon and purchase Misty's book that has reached #1 beyond some folks, including the Pope. Spark Your Influence, Inspiring Women to Lead with Boldness, Purpose, and Passion. Thank you, Misty.
Thanks, Megan.
See you soon. Wow, what a wonderful segment of the Propel Deep Dive. Every week that I do this, or every segment that I do this, people ask me all the time, how do I choose my guests? Because they're very varied, but they have one thread, and that is Jesus. And but my answer to the individual, when they ask, how did you pick that person? How do you know that person? My answer is always the same: the Holy Spirit. God opens doors. Just be available, listen, and take that step, and listen and not question it. Listen and be available. Take that first step. So we look forward to having you next time on the Propel Deep Dive for another powerful segment. But in the meantime, go to the Propel community, and the trailer is here. You can go to that and find the Propel community. Join that. You'll receive a Propel Daily every day, and then other things along with it. And certainly my Propel business program to start, scale, and sustain the business and life of your dreams. And Misty referenced my book, Hope and Possibilities, just over the horizon. It's never too early, guys, and it's never too late to create the life of your dreams. So we'll see you next week on the Propel Deep Dive, and then go to Spotify and all the podcast platforms to listen to this and others when you join the Propel community. Be blessed. Thank you.
Hello, peace. Hello, joy.